He's charged with conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
I'll tell you the response to any allegation is Mr. Williams committed no crime whatsoever, and we will fight to my last drop of blood to clear him.
What's going on with it, Rizzle fam? I don't even know what to say about this one. I feel like I've said that before about some of these stories, but this one hits different. We all know that the feds have been crazy with the Rico charges for some time. For a while, people thought they were a relic of the mafia age. That's not the case though. As we've been shown time and time again, these charges still happen. And this time, young Thug and Gunna are being targeted. Usually in the past, when people have been hit with Rico charges, it's some smaller names. Maybe you have people like 6ix9ine, Glock 9, and DJ Drama. These people are definitely famous in their own right and in certain circles, but at the same time, they aren't quite on the same level of fame and name recognition as people like Young Thug. That's why this whole thing is so shocking. As of now, Young Thug is definitely in the custody of the Atlanta Police Department, while Gunna was merely named in the indictment. Some sources cite Gunna as currently in custody, but accounts vary. There's been word of Young Thug's gang involvement for a very long time, but a lot of people assumed that once he blew up, he didn't really mess around in the streets as much anymore. Thug's been involved with a number of different groups throughout the years. First off, he was a member of the Bloods at a very young age, since he also had family members who were also about that life. Thug grew up on Cleveland Avenue, which has a very long blood gang history. In fact, a lot of people actually refer to Cleveland as Cleveland. Young Thug had a pretty troubled youth. He ended up in juvie at a very young age. He apparently got into an altercation with one of his teachers and ended up breaking their arm. Once he actually got locked up, he just developed more bad habits out of boredom. Even with all those bad habits, Thug actually was already somewhat of a role model for the younger kids in the neighborhood. He was always setting trends and everybody else wanted to be like him. Since Young Thug was gathering up so much clout in his neighborhood, he decided he was going to do something with it. He decided to start up YSL, which stands for Young Stoner Life. Eventually, the Young Stoner Life crew turned into Young Thug's label. There's a whole lot of talk from law enforcement and people on the streets that YSL is a gang, but Thug has always stayed smart and denied the allegations. Instead, he argues that the clique is just a way to put his homies on and get him out of the hood. Things weren't just good for Thug though. Of course, YSL helped put rappers like Gunna and Lil Keed on the map, but others were struggling. That is until YFN Lucci came on the scene. Lucci founded his own crew called YFN. Lucci was a known member of another blood set called ABG. For a while, things were civil between the two crews. The two sets for sure had their ops, but that didn't mean that there was really any reason for the two of them to have issues with each other. Everything changed with the loss of one man though. Donovan Thomas Jr. was a member of the ABG and a close friend and mentor to YFN Lucci. He went by the name Big Nut. Back in 2015, tragedy struck and kicked this whole thing off. For a long time, the whole thing was unsolved, and the culprit remained a mystery. It wasn't until documents about Young Thug's Rico charges came out that we really had any idea what went down. According to news broadcasts from around that time in January, a total of 3 people were hit outside of a barbershop in Atlanta near McDaniel Street. Big Nut's neighbor ran out after hearing shots fired from inside her house. She found 3 men there on the ground. One of the people hit in the incident was a 14-year-old boy. A reporter from WSB-TV named Michael Seaton recently pointed out a few things in the 88-page indictment that Young Thug was named in. He says the Young Thug rented a 2014 Infiniti Q50, which was used in the commission of the incident. It's not at all clear who the shooter might be, but at the very least, the law seems to be under the impression that Thug was involved. That single event would be the match that would light the whole town of Atlanta ablaze. After the death of Big Nut, a number of rappers stopped appearing in any of Young Thug's music, since it became clear that Young Thug might have had something to do with it. Like we've seen happen so many times in the rap game, these street beefs have real consequences for the music and industry surrounding it. This was just the start though. We still got 7 years to cover. A rapper named Plies started a major issue with Young Thug posting a video of Thug's daughter calling her a B. Thug responded saying, "I don't understand how you can post a video of a kid cussing. I don't understand it, and I'm young. I ain't never had a problem with Plies putting it up cause he's not the one who put it up. He's not the one who started it. I only have the problem with him cause he said bleh." He also threatened to slap Plies after the interaction went down. As a result, YFN Lucci had also posted a picture of his daughter wishing her a happy birthday. Lucci knew this would get on Thug's nerves. Not only that, but he captioned the photo, "Happy birthday, baby girl. Unstoppable. YFN BC. Think it's a game. Long live Nut forever. Feb 16. WMW2. You smell me." Can't even imagine how threatening something like that must have felt. The Think It's a Game combined with Long Live Nut forever is chilling. Lucci and Thug went back and forth on social social media for a long time after this, getting increasingly hostile with each other. Lucci also claimed that he was in a relationship with Thug's longtime fiancée, Jerica Carley. He claimed if he got 100,000 followers, he'd go ahead and post DMs. He did post DMs with somebody it looked like he was about to hook up with, but there wasn't anything there to imply it was actually Jerica. In 2019, maybe as retaliation and maybe as an unrelated situation, Lucci got his car shot up. His red Mercedes was hit in a drive-by and the driver was hit in the shoulder. Lucci was listed in the police report, but he wasn't actually in the car at the time. There weren't any major injuries, but the car was registered to Lucci's mother, which makes the whole thing hit a little closer to home. Things have continued heating up ever since, culminating in the arrest of YFN Lucci himself on Rico charges, along with other members of his gang. Lucci was also thought to be the driver in another drive-by that resulted in a man named James Adam losing his life. He turned himself in for this one and got out on a hefty bail, but he broke the terms and ended up back in jail. Lucci's been denied bond in the Rico case, and it's unlikely that he'll see the light of day outside a lockup for a long time. When someone gets hit with Rico charges like this, it's basically a big workaround for the law to say someone's guilty of a crime by association, despite the fact that they may actually not have done anything themselves. Like say someone orders a hit, someone under them steals a car for them to perform the hit, a third guy gets a ride to go and perform a drive-by. Now all three people can be charged with 3 crimes. That's exactly what happened to Lucci. Now recently there have been a few pretty odd occurrences. Young Thug's ex-girlfriend and the mother of one of his children recently lost her life at a bowling alley, which was due to an argument about a score on something like that. Not a lot of people are buying that story, and it makes sense that they wouldn't. Georgia Chidi, an activist who lives in the Atlanta area, says that she has nothing to do with bowling. They said friends of hers that were present say that she's not actively involved in the argument at all, which leads me to wonder why she was killed, because it looked like it was a targeted killing. I think if someone was going after Young Thug in any way they can to get him, not just gangsters getting anyone close to them are at risk. Chidi thinks that there's no way this wasn't some kind of YSL versus YFN thing. Reports released just recently also shocked the whole rap game when they came out. Since Young Thug and Gunna have been named in a Rico indictment, anything is possible. I mean, the thing is a whopping 88 pages long. In a press briefing, the Atlanta DA said they've been working to crack the case for a long time. She specifically mentions the passing away of Big Nut as a catalyst for the whole unfolding that took place between YFN and YSL. She also claims that 75 to 80% of all major crimes that go on in Atlanta is a direct result of gangs like this. She specified that the Rico charges are incredibly useful because it doesn't just target the young kids who are putting in the work, it also targets the people up top giving the orders. She seems to think that people like YFN Lucci and Young Thug. In the press briefing, the DA was also asked about whether or not social media was important to the investigation. She replied by saying that it was an invaluable tool, and in this day and age, it's one of the most important parts of any investigation. That just tells you how many cases have probably been aided by people self-snitching on socials. A lot of the fans are actually saying that this is unfortunate to see Young Thug getting charged because he was really changing his ways. With Rico charges, the Fed gonna bring up the past shady stuff that did too. Like one fan that said, "It's sad since even if Young Thug was changing his life, being a part of a gang, feds can bring up shit you and your gang did decades ago due to Rico charges." Shaking my head. Of course, there was the usual mix of people in the comments on live stream of the press briefing that the district attorney gave about the indictment. Weirdly enough, people were making thirsty comments about the female DNA. There were also just comments like "free my slime" and "free slat." One viewer said, "Honorable Minister warned y'all, people are getting tired of this killing, drugs, and guns. Get your house in order. When you refuse to clean your minds and souls, justice comes. Love." Another viewer pointed out how hard this case would be to beat, saying, "It's a state Rico, probably helped by feds. He ain't winning." Twitter's also blowing up right now, but it's not like we expected anything else. This guy was keeping it light, saying, "They cell block about to be lit as all that music." DJ Academics also weighed in, tweeting, "The feds calling YSL a criminal gang, indicted 28 of them on Rico charges and basically say they killed someone in 2015 and claim Young Thug rented the car the killers drove to do the murder. This is serious, wow." Another fan pointed out that they probably didn't even need to investigate much thanks to social media. They said, "I'm sure all the evidence is on social media." They didn't even give the label a heads up, which means this is serious enough to go to trial, and that means no worldwide touring. Shake my head. Another fan said, "Being a rapper and gangster can't happen. You have to drop either one of these to live. It's like self-snitching on yourself when 24/7 you highlight your actions publicly and expect nothing to happen." The scope of this indictment is huge too. It's not like it will end at Young Thug and YFN Lucci. The indictment also lists a number of gangs that are under investigation. That means we definitely haven't seen the end of this whole operation. Since they're trying to be so tough on gangs right now, it's also likely that the judge will do their best to hit all parties involved with the maximum sentences. That's a potential 25 years. For the time being, the future of this case remains unclear. And what does Young Thug has to say about all this? Well, Young Thug has denied all of them. It seems likely that his lawyer is going to enter a not guilty plea, but maybe they'll go for something else. There's a lot of speculation surrounding everything right now. Some people have gone so far as to claim that they think YFN Lucci is guilty of cooperating with the police to get a lighter sentence and revenge on Thug, but for now, that's all just hearsay. How are we feeling on all this though? Is Thug actually the mastermind running his gang from the shadows while hiding in plain sight? Or is it actually the case that the police are unfairly targeting him for the sake of putting him as many people away as they can? Is it likely that Lucci actually snitched? Let us know what you think down below in the comments. Don't forget to keep it Rizzle, and if you mess with this story, I know you're not going to want to miss this next video.